Welcome to Loop Theme Park Adventures and our new grading series here on the channel, where we take a look at the roller coaster offerings at the major theme parks we visit and give each of them a grade from A+ to F-. In today's video, we're grading the roller coasters at the island like no other, Thorpe Park. And for this video, I'm excited to be joined by Sam Costello from Theme Park Insanity, who will be providing his thoughts and grades too. If you haven't checked out Theme Park Insanity, then make sure you go and find them on Facebook and visit their website for daily theme park content. And if you enjoy what we do here at Loop Theme Park Adventures, then we'd love it if you hit the like button and subscribe to their channel. Thorpe Park is located just outside of London in Chertsey and features 7 operating roller coasters on site. Before we get grading, there are 2 honourable mentions which aren't going to feature in this video. The first is Walking Dead the ride, as due to the restrictions of the pandemic, this ride hasn't operated throughout the 2020 season. And the second is Flying Fish, as this is a fairly straightforward family coaster, which I've never ridden in its current form because I have such fond memories of its previous life as Space Station Zero. So we're going to focus on the notorious Big 5 at Thorpe Park, starting with the coaster that kicked off their decade of major thrill coaster investments. Colossus opened in 2002 to huge fanfare as the world's first roller coaster to invert 10 times. In harnessing the power of 10, this twisty Intamin contraption features a loop, a cobra roll, 2 corkscrews and 5 heartline rolls that take you on a journey through the ride's Mayan-influenced jungle landscape. And yet, despite this coaster's obvious focus on its inversions, my favourite section of the ride is the awesome airtime hill following the loop, sending the train diving under the bridge, which provides a nice head chopper effect. Speaking of the trains, this is one of the major criticisms of Colossus, as they're cramped and uncomfortable with heavy over-the-shoulder restraints that can punish your shoulders, especially during the quadruple heartline roll towards the end of the ride. There's also a little bit of a rattle that's developed over time, although I wouldn't go as far as to call it rough, but I would certainly recommend trying to sit towards the front of the train. Overall, I would describe Colossus as a fun ride which has its flaws, and for that reason I'm going straight down the middle with a C grade. With a bit of love from the park, such as a repaint, tidying up the surrounding ride area and maybe even modern trains with lap bars, Thorpe Park could breathe some life back into their original thrill machine. Here's hoping they give it some attention for its 20th anniversary in just over a year's time. Those are my thoughts. What does Sam think?
Hello everyone, and thank you Paul for having me on your channel. This kind of feels like parents' evening but for roller coasters. So I guess I'll call Colossus in for their grades first. It is an Intamin Mega Looper, has 10 inversions, so straight into top set for inversions, and it has heartline rolls in abundance. I'd also have to rate it pretty highly for theming, especially with the very nice landscaping around the Lost City ruins. And then adding to the ambience, music, top of the class, epic soundtrack, and it encapsulates the whole adventurous Lost City theme. So it is a great roller coaster. However, it's by no means perfect and has some slight behavioural issues. On my last few rides on Colossus, I did get a bit of headbanging, and of course the spatially challenged trains need to go straight onto Santa's naughty list. Despite the mild discomfort, Colossus is a fun coaster, and in my eyes it's worthy of a B-.
Hot on the heels of Colossus, in 2003 Thorpe Park opened Nemesis Inferno, a Bolliger and Mabillard inverted coaster themed around a volcano. The use of the Nemesis name, cashing in on the success of its big sister Alton Towers, is a slightly cynical move and in many ways has harmed people's perceptions of the ride in my opinion, as this is a perfectly decent inverted coaster that features a pre-drop section that takes you through the volcano which, depending on the day that you visit, can include smoke and lighting effects. The main section of the coaster includes a vertical loop, 0G roll, 2 interlocking corkscrews and a helix at the end which pulls some nice positive forces. Nemesis Inferno also looks stunning off-ride, with its twisted crimson steel weaving above its jungle-like queue line and across the nearby walkways. It also looks great viewed from above on the nearby drop tower detonator. Over the years, I've developed a real enjoyment of Nemesis Inferno. It retains most of the trademark B&M smoothness, but has plenty of moments of force and intensity too. I think the key is in not comparing it to the original Nemesis, which is one of the best B&M inverts of all time. Viewed in isolation as its own ride, Inferno does everything it needs to and offers a solid and thrilling experience. For me, Nemesis Inferno gets a B- grade. There are a couple of coasters I can give a miss on a visit to Thorpe Park, but Inferno definitely isn't one of them, and is an essential part of any trip to the island. over to you, Sam.
Nemesis Inferno, the B&M invert, sister of the legendary Nemesis at Alton Towers. And she's kinda hot. It's a bit weird. Moving on. Nemesis Inferno is one of the more forceful coasters at the park. The ride packs all the classic invert intensity and it's worthy of the sizzle sizzle fire emojis. On top of that, the experience is silky smooth. Match this with the wonderful jungle theming, the impressive volcano which houses the station, along with the enchanting score. This coaster is not to be missed. My only criticism is that the layout is pretty standard, especially when compared with its sibling over at Alton Towers, which oozes originality. Smooth and forceful with some nice theming, although the layout lacks any real wow factor, I'll have to give Nemesis Inferno a B+.
2006 saw Thorpe Park add Stealth, its third major coaster in 4 years, as well as being only the second roller coaster in the UK to break the 200-foot mark. This intermin accelerator tears out the gate, launching riders from 0 to 80 miles an hour in 1.8 seconds. I've been fortunate enough to experience King Dakar, Formula Rossa, Top Thrill Dragster and Red Force, and I consider Stealth's launch to be the punchiest out of all of them. It's like being thumped in the back, but in a good way. In a matter of seconds, you find yourself ascending the 205-foot high top hat, which provides a nice pop of airtime, especially if you can avoid being stapled. And from the front rows can feel genuinely intimidating as the track disappears in front of you and feels like you're being fired directly into the sky. Of course, what comes up must come down, and after you crescend the apex, it's back down to earth with an almost vertical drop, followed by a bunny hop before the brakes hit. Stealth is fast, furious and over in seconds, but that's also partly what makes it work. As you cruise around the final turn into the station, the adrenaline from the acceleration, the speed and the height is still coursing through your veins. I'm giving Stealth a B grade. It's a short, sharp shock that's great fun to watch off-ride and even more fun to experience firsthand.
Ooh, Stealth. This not so hard to detect coaster is by far the tallest of Thorpe Park's roster. Despite a slightly baffling name, Stealth is a great ride. This intermin accelerator is essentially a half-pint strata coaster, and although it can be described as a one-trick pony, it's one hell of a trick. The launch, it packs more force than Yoda before throwing you up the 205-foot top hat, giving you more airtime than AJ got from a full 2 weeks in I'm a Celeb. The views once you're up there are amazing, which gets the ride some extra brownie points. The theming is minimal, but the ride looks so impressive that I don't care. This could only be even better if the trains had some lap bars and the ride had a longer layout. So for this reason, I give Stealth an A-.
Jigsaw and his Saw franchise arrived on the island in 2008 in the form of this custom-built Gerstlauer Eurofighter. This is one of the more heavily themed coasters at the park, with various horrifying traps and devices littering the queue line. The station is dark and dingy and includes various items from the Saw films. In many ways, the theme is perfect for the ride, as it is like being strapped to a torture device, particularly once you reach the outside section. But first, let's talk about the positives and the first part of the ride. If you're fortunate enough to be batched on the second car in the station, then as the first car goes straight through, you'll be held back for a little monologue from the creepy Jigsaw doll. What follows is a small vertical drop underneath swinging axes, dodging another couple of traps and a heartline roll over a gruesome bathroom scene, complete with a spurting blood effect from the victim lying on the floor below. This is all good. The coaster section here is fun and encapsulates the theme well, but for me, that's where the fun ends. I'm not a huge fan of vertical lift hills anyway, and while the beyond vertical drop beneath the rotating blades is a great visual, I find the rest of the ride really uncomfortable from here on out. And it's a weird one because it's not necessarily rough, but it rattles my brain around and I always come off sore with an unpleasant headache. I've tried riding it as defensively as possible, but over time it's become a coaster that I simply just don't enjoy riding. However, I know plenty of people who love it, so I guess it's a bit of a Marmite coaster, but for me it's grown to become one of my least favourite roller coasters here in the UK, and for that reason I'm giving it a D+ grade, and the plus is for the theming and the indoor section. Sorry to all the Saw fans out there, but this just isn't a coaster for me. But is it a coaster for Sam?
Saw, the ride. The park's heavily themed Gerstlauer Eurofighter. It's based on the film franchise about a dude who loves games. And with this, the inside section is definitely the standout part of this ride for me. It's full of surprises. It has inversions, very startling set pieces, and of course vertical drops, like the sharp vertical drop which kicks things off with a solid head chopper. That's my personal highlight. The torture does unfortunately continue into parts of the outdoor section, and in places the ride can be quite uncomfortable during this second half, and that is why the ride will lose some points for me. However, with the beyond vertical drop and an ejector hill with amazing airtime more befitting to the X Games, the outdoor section is still enjoyable. So despite some rough elements, Saw has excellent theming and a very unique layout, so in my eyes it's worthy of a B+.
Thorpe Park's most recent big roller coaster investment came over 8 years ago in the form of the Swarm, the UK's first B&M wing coaster, which features some of the best theming on the park. The ride's story is that aliens have invaded and are sweeping innocent victims off the streets and carrying them away, probably to perform some weird tests on them or something. Swarm Island is a dystopian landscape of airplane wreckage, crashed emergency vehicles, a lorry on its side, and a downed helicopter partially sunk into a lake, with the station itself being a burnt-out church. Plenty of effort has been made to make this an immersive, story-driven section of the park, and it shows, with fire and water effects also being part of the overall experience. The Swarm is made up of 4 inversions: a wing overdrop where you flip over at the top of the lift hill before flying underneath the plane wing and up into an awesome 0G roll. There's an incline loop which doesn't quite invert, a helix around the lake where you circle the aforementioned helicopter, up into a corkscrew, and then the final inline twist above the station. The Swarm also has a couple of great head choppers, particularly as you career through the billboard. With B&M's trademark smoothness on full display, and with it being a wing coaster that offers different experiences on each side, this is such a re-rideable coaster and is my favourite attraction at Thorpe Park, with my only real criticism being its relatively short length. Did I mention that it's also great at night? The views of London lit up in the distance as you reach the peak of the lift hill are amazing. The Swarm receives a B+ from me. It's my favourite ride at the park and in my top 3 coasters in the UK, but its short length just prevents it from being a truly elite level coaster and breaking into A-grade territory. But it's close. Now it's back to Sam one last time for his thoughts on the Swarm.
The Swarm, Thorpe Park's BMW coaster, which now stands for B&M Wing Coaster by the way. This ride is huge and attracts swarms of guests with its towering inversions, pardon the pun. Matching incredible post-apocalyptic theming with a layout spicier than a plate of Nando's hot wings, this coaster provides perhaps the tastiest experience in the park. Despite flying around overturned vehicles, piercing through billboards and dismantling churches, the Swarm offers the smoothest ride in the park. It glides around the track and it's as smooth as butter. Possibly the best coaster in the park, yet it does lack the white knuckle intensity that I so crave. And for this reason, the Swarm gets an A-.
A big thank you to Sam for taking part in this video. Make sure you check out his channel here on YouTube, as well as the awesome Theme Park Insanity. The links are down in the description.
Thank you so much for having me on your channel. I've been a fan for a while, so I think your viewers should definitely consider subscribing. Also, check out Theme Park Insanity on Facebook for all the theme park content you could possibly imagine. Oh yeah, and my very own YouTube channel, Sam Costello, where I just try to be funny and talk about theme parks.
Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please hit the like button and get involved in the discussion in the comments below. If you'd like to follow our theme park adventures, then subscribe to the channel and enable notifications. You can find us on Facebook at facebook.com/looptpa and on Instagram @looptpa.